So today my presentation will be based on the EU FLECT VPA that Guyana has been engaging the European Union, and I'll just get into my presentation right now. Basically, what is FLECT? Well, it stands for Forest Law, Enforcement, Governance and Trade, and it simply forms the action plan that EU proposed to tackle illegal logging and trade of forest produce. Just to establish the link early as it relates to the RED Plus initiative, in Guyana's case, RED stands for Reduce Emissions from Deforestation and Forest Degradation. And globally, it is estimated that around 10 to 15 billion US dollars is lost annually as a result of illegal logging and associated activities. So illegal activities is actually seen as a driver of deforestation and forest degradation. So that is the link between RED and the FLECT. Now the thing is, because it's seen as a way of deforestation and forest degradation, Guyana decided to enter into formal negotiations with the European Union as a spin-off of the whole RED Plus initiative and the LCDS initiative Guyana has been involved in since 2009. Now, the Voluntary Partnership Agreement, what we say the FLECT VPA, it's a bilateral agreement between EU and Guyana. It's more so a buyer and seller agreement, where Guyana is the seller and the buyer is the European Union. And it's basically saying that the EU wants to negotiate with Guyana as it relates to this agreement on the product that's going to be exported from Guyana. So the VPA forms one component of the FLECT Action Plan. And I said the FLECT Action Plan is actually going to be used as an initiative to curb illegal logging. So just to sum up shortly, how did FLECT actually start in Guyana? It first started as a result of the Memorandum of Understanding that was signed between Norway and Guyana, and basically this was as a result of the low carbon development strategy, right? And we're saying as a country we want to reduce emission from deforestation and degradation, but we're also saying that illegal logging causes deforestation and forest degradation to an extent. Now as a result, we entered into negotiation with the European Union in 2012 as it relates to the FLECT VPA. So the EU's response to illegal logging is basically what we have now, the Forest Law, Enforcement, Governance and Trade Voluntary Partnership Agreement. And basically what this agreement is saying is that only legal timber will be imported by the European Union. So the timber producing country has to show to the European Union that whatever timber is being exported from the country, like in Guyana's case, the country Guyana must show the EU that, look, this timber is deemed legal. So the VPA is surrounded, or it's composed mainly of a timber producing country and the European Union. That is how we get the VPA. So illegal logging contributes to a wide array of economic loss as well as social and environmental damages. But how does the FLECT VPA really minimizes these, or how does the FLECT VPA addresses these problems? Well, for one, it ensures that benefits from forest resources flow to the right individuals. Secondly, it prevents unfair competition between legal and illegal products. Thirdly, it helps to maintain a low rate of deforestation and degradation, hence the link with RED Plus. And lastly, ensures sustainable development of forest-dependent communities. So these are all the reasons, or all the ways in which the FLECT VPA addresses the issue of economic loss, social issues, as well as environmental damages. Now, you often hear we say FLECT and we say VPA. Well, as I said, it's a bilateral agreement between EU and Guyana. But when we say VPA, we mean Voluntary Partnership Agreement. Voluntary in that a country is not forced to enter into this agreement. The country says, or the country first signals its interest to say, look, we as a country, we want to export legal timber. And as a result, we're going to enter voluntarily with the EU to devise a FLEGT VPA. The VPA will only become compulsory when it is signed. Okay? So basically, when the VPA is signed now, the country will be held by those requirements of the voluntary partnership agreement. However, those requirements are negotiated over a period of time by the country as well as the EU. So we're only putting things in the agreement that we're going to comply with, right? So this isn't going to be seen as something that's going to be burdensome to the local stakeholders when it's going to be implemented, right? So it's constantly a negotiating process between EU and Guyana as to what the agreement will entail and what the requirements of defining legality are going to be. So the FLEGT VPA is based on a system of trust, a system in which the EU trusts Guyana to show that its timber is legal. Now, Guyana currently has its own legality assurance system, where EFI, as well as a number of other international stakeholders, have deemed Guyana's system to be very advanced and to be a working system. We currently have the only national log tracking system in the world that is also working. So our system is, while we can safely say it's credible, what the FLEGT VPA seeks to do is to build on our existing system. Right? It doesn't change anything. Our wood tracking system stays the same. It's things that we're doing currently as stakeholders within the system, right? So it's nothing different, but it's just building on the system to ensure that there are no gaps or weaknesses, right? So in addition, the FLEGT VPA also targets a wide array of stakeholders. It doesn't only target or takes into consideration stakeholders that are currently exporting wood to the EU, but it also targets stakeholders that might in the future export timber to the EU. So for example, the FLEGT VPA currently targets large and small concessionaires, lumberyards, sawmillers, exporters, and also community associations and Amerindian communities as well. So the FLEGT VPA ensures that it covers the wide array of stakeholders that might possibly be exporting or that are exporting currently to the EU. Now the FLEGT VPA, as I said, it's molded based on the responses of the stakeholders. So therefore, the FLEGT VPA, it's adaptable to different stakeholders. Different stakeholders, they have different regulations that are used to define legality of timber. A community, for example, might not have the same regulation as or might not have to abide by the same regulation as a concessionaire would. But that doesn't mean it's not credible, because it can still be internationally credible based on what they comply with as it relates to national laws, and it can still be deemed efficient. So it's not going to be seen as something that is cumbersome for the people who are not exporting to imply or to impose regulations that the guys who are exporting currently do. But it's going to be molded in such a way to take into consideration every aspect of the different stakeholders, right? Negotiation forms a big part of the FLEGT VPA process, whereby when I speak of negotiations, I mean both local negotiations, as in consultations with our local stakeholders, as well as international stakeholders like the EU. We're saying that they play a big part in how this VPA is going to be developed, and as such, their comments and feedback are very important in developing key texts of the VPA. So as a result, we have constant negotiation, national level consultations with our local stakeholders, as well as international stakeholders. The European Union has currently done 3 negotiations with Guyana, where we sit at the table and discuss what we can place within the voluntary partnership based on our local stakeholder responses. The thing is, stakeholders play a great deal, or local stakeholders that is, play a great deal in the voluntary partnership agreement, because they in essence know what is practical and what is achievable, and even more so, what can be implemented and what can work. So as a result, getting their insight about these things into the VPA will help to mold the VPA and develop it into something that is workable, something that wouldn't be seen as a burden to the stakeholder, but something that we can easily achieve in the long run when it comes to defining legality. In addition, we can safely say that not every system is perfect. There will be some faults in a system from time to time. As a result, third-party verification of that system is very much important. What do I mean by third-party verification? It's simply having somebody checking on the system, somebody who's independent of the governing or of the national forest governing body, like the GFC, somebody who's independent of the GFC or not with the GFC, and somebody who's not engaged in forest harvesting. So it's having somebody or an organization, for example, singularly outside, looking at the system to determine where weaknesses may lie, where gaps are, and finding solutions to help them build and improve on the system. So third-party verification will be done to check the system and ensure that it's operational, right? And it's working correctly over time, and it appeals to every different stakeholders. This independent auditing will be overseen by a joint implementation committee. What this committee initially or basically seeks to do is to ensure that the system is working, ensure that stakeholders are satisfied, and illegality within the system is absent. And this joint implementation committee will be established during the VPA process, coming down towards the agreement or signing of the agreement, and they will basically comprise members of both Guyana and the EU. So it's going to be Guyana representatives are also going to be seated on this committee as well. So you might think that Guyana is alone in this VPA, but be certain that it's not. We have a lot of countries across the world, timber producing countries, that are also involved in the VPA process. Currently, as we speak, in Asia, we have Vietnam and Malaysia that is engaged with the EU on the FLEG VPA. We also have Africa, specifically Ghana, the Ivory Coast, and Liberia. And more to home, we have Central and South America, Honduras, Bolivia, and of course, Guyana. So these are all the countries that are involved in the FLEG VPA. This is just basically a map which shows the various countries that have shown an interest in FLEG and are in the negotiations with the EU. So having said all of that, why the VPA for Guyana? Specifically, what can the benefits be for Guyanese stakeholders who are going to be covered by FLEG when going to the EU? Well, for one, it ensures better market access. Why do I say this? The European Union isn't a country, but it's a consortium of different countries. Currently, there's 28 member countries or member states that form the European Union. Being covered by the FLEG VPA, your product will be preferred, will have preferential access to these 28 or to the market of these 28 member states. So it ensures better market access, easier market access to these countries, right? That's one.
From a marketing perspective, the VPA, when successfully concluded and implemented by Guyana, will bring several benefits to our wood products industry sector. Firstly, the VPA will provide ready access to EU market for some 300 million consumers for the industry's 6 products that are currently being negotiated in the VPA, some of which are already well known internationally for their attractive aesthetic and durability properties. The EU is a market of more than 300 million consumers and is one of the major consumer markets for tropical timber products globally. This product scope can be expanded to include other products over time. Secondly, being able to export legal timber and timber products to the EU will further enhance Guyana's image internationally, create access to new non-EU markets such as Japan, Australia, and New Zealand, and consolidate access to traditional markets such as the US and Canada. The markets currently have national legislation that prohibit the importation of timber products whose legal origins cannot be verified. Thirdly, emerging markets such as Canada, China, Taiwan, Korea, and Vietnam, which import tropical timber as raw material for manufacturing and re-export to markets such as the EU, Japan, North America, Australia, and New Zealand, will have the confidence to buy Guyana's wood products, as they can demonstrate to their customers in these markets that their raw material comes from an internationally recognized and legal source. Fourth, the VPA provides the opportunity for stakeholders to identify areas of the industry needing support and assistance, and to ask for the resources through the negotiations to address those industry challenges. And these include enhancing industry's capacity to continually produce products that meet international quality standards, supporting industry's effort to develop new products, supporting community associations and Amerindian producers in implementing sustainable management and use practices of our forest resources, and strengthening Guyana's forest law and governance management, which is already well known internationally because Guyana is one of the first ITTO producer member countries to implement a coded tagging system for tracking timber and products.
Secondly, it helps to reform policies and laws. During the VPA process, we've noticed in Guyana that there's a few laws that can be improved. There might be weaknesses in these laws, or we can update a law to reflect legality more definitively. So it's one of the things that the FLEG VPA help is helping us to understand at the moment on how we can reform policies, upgrade policies, and make it better to show legality of our timber produce coming out of this country. Right? Some of that we've started to devise new codes of practices to strengthen the guidelines for sustainable forest management. A new Forest Act has also been implemented. So these are the small things that are being developed as a result of the FLEG VPA when it comes to reforming policies and laws where needed. It helps to clarify roles and responsibility in that we know who's going to be doing what as it relates to the FLEG VPA, when are they going to do it, and how they are going to do it. It isn't just the Guyana Forestry Commission that's going to be involved in ensuring legality of timber produce that leaves the country, but there's a whole list of different agencies that will also be involved. So in a way, it helps to improve governance as well. So that's a next benefit. When I say different agencies, I mean, like, for example, the Guyana Revenue Authority. They are responsible for export as well as import. So they will play a role in determining or helping to define legality of timber produce that leaves the country. It helps to promote training and capacity building. More importantly, over about 3 years, since 2012, the NTWG has started consultations with stakeholders across the country, national level consultations from Region 1 all the way to Region 10. We've been engaging with civil society, we've been engaged with NGOs, government agencies, Amerindian communities, as well as state forest operators and private operators. And we're building their capacity, we're building their awareness on what FLEG is and how it can benefit them, and how they can play a role in developing the VPA. So it helps to build capacity in this regard so that people can know about the current procedures that operates within Guyana as it relates to wood tracking, and how it can be improved to better facilitate legality of produce, right? So we help to give that broad understanding and as much information as possible as it relates to Guyana's current system and what the FLEG VPA seeks to do. On a business perspective, any business exporting to the EU covered by a FLEG license will also be deemed credible and reliable. What do I mean by this? For example, being covered by a FLEC license, it gives the impression that your timber is from a legal source, and it can be defined as legally harvested, legally transported through the supply chain from a legally allocated concession. So essentially what the FLEC VPA, what the FLEC license or timber covered by FLEC license seeks to do is to show that your produce is legal, and this helps to showcase your business that is credible and reliable in that it's able to provide on-demand legal produce. So this is how it improves your credibility and reliability as a business. And lastly, it helps to improve the country's image. As a country, we all want the things leaving our country to be of legal origin, and they can be defined legally. They meet the legal requirements of the country. So it helps to improve the country's image in that regard. Timber leaving Guyana shores going to the EU will be very preferred when it comes to that market, because we can define legality of our produce. So Guyana's progress to date, the GFC has been identified as a lead agency of the process, and the National Technical Working Group and the FLEC Secretariat were also formed. The National Technical Working Group, in short, basically comprises of governmental agencies as well as non-governmental agencies, and there are currently 13 members on the NTWG. Some of the governmental agencies that are on the NTWG, which is the National Technical Working Group, are Ministry of Legal Affairs, we have National Two-House Council, the Ministry of Indigenous Peoples Affairs, we've also having the Guyana Manufacturing Service Association, Forest Product Development and Marketing Council, among others. What these persons seek to do is basically to provide technical support to the VPA process, right? And they are also responsible for taking whatever information they know about the FLEC VPA back to their main constituent level or their main constituent bodies and discussing FLEC with them. So whatever concern that larger body has, the members, can bring it to the table of the NTWG for further deliberation and discussion, right? So this is a wider stakeholder participation in the VPA process. Note, the NTWG was selected or developed based on a participatory and transparent process. The FLEC Secretariat is housed within the Guyana Forest Commission, and they also provide technical support on the VPA. When I say technical support, I mean spearheading stakeholder engagement and the revision of key documents that help to add to the voluntary partnership agreement. There was a development of a joint roadmap which basically sets out the key milestones that have to be achieved in order to sign the agreement. These key milestones may include the drafting of various annexes as well as schedules for consultation. So they give a streamlined path on how Guyana can reach its destination, which is signing of the voluntary partnership agreement. Currently, there's 3 negotiations that have been done thus far. Negotiations with the EU, where Guyana sat with the EU and discussed various things to include in the voluntary partnership agreement. The first was in 2012 when Guyana took the initiative to enter into formal negotiations with the EU, and that was in Guyana. The third one was in July of 2013 in Brussels, and the last one, which was the most recent, was in April of 2015 in Guyana. The fourth negotiation is scheduled on the roadmap to be in November of 2015. Basically, here is just a few of the persons or membership of the National Technical Working Group and their larger constituent bodies. Several video conferences were also done with the EU. Specifically representing the EU was the European Forest Institute. Now these video conferences with the European Forest Institute serve to provide technical support again with Guyana. So the EFI worked closely with Guyana collaboratively in helping to review the legality assurance system, for example, and helping to draft key documents like the legality definition as well as other annexes of the VPA. The video conferences serve the purpose to ensuring open channel for feedback between Guyana and the EU, as well as facilitating clear communication with EFI as well as the European Union. So 2 projects were completed to date, and they are the scoping of impacts assessment, which basically seeks to identify the gaps that may lie in the system or the effects that may result as a result of the implementation of the VPA. So it essentially seeks to identify what these effects might be, and if detrimental or if might be bad, how Guyana can improve on these weaknesses and gaps that may lie in the system. So it helps to develop a mitigation strategy, so to speak, to find solutions. In addition, a communication and consultation strategy was also another project that was drafted and completed, so to speak. And what this document sought to do is to simply streamline the process for communication and consultation. It helped to identify who we needed to consult, how we will be able to consult them, and when and where we will be able to consult with the various stakeholders. Various stakeholder bodies were also identified, and the channels that will be used for both feedback and communication with them as well. There were a number of consultations with stakeholder groups, different stakeholder groups across Guyana, as I said before: civil society, non-governmental organizations, governmental agencies, marine communities, community associations, as well as persons or stakeholders directly involved in forestry or commercial forest operations in Guyana. Work on the legality definition has played a major part within the negotiation process, because the legality definition basically seeks to answer the question, what makes timber legal? As a result, it forms a major part of the legality assurance system of Guyana, and subsequently thus adding to the FLEC VPA. Guyana's progress to date also continued with the development of various annexes, much like the product scope, the legality definition, as I said, as well as various terms of references for independent auditing, as well as the legality assurance system. Of course, my colleague, Mr. Kenny David, will also expand a bit more on these annexes. Stakeholder engagements, as I said, played an important part, and we've targeted mainly every region of Guyana, and we've received very good feedback on the legality definition. We've also received feedback on the negotiation process in general, and also the terms of references for the communication and consultation strategy, as well as the terms of reference for the scoping of impacts assessment. So the product scope was also one of the documents that we also deliberated on at these different discussions. We try to do as much consultation as possible because stakeholder inputs are very important to the development of the VPA. So basically, before we do consultations, we identify stakeholders. We then designed a letter which will be used as a formal invite, encouraging stakeholders to take part in our consultation sessions. Right? The letter basically stipulated or sought to answer the question, what is the purpose of the meeting? So it gives them a brief background of what FLEC is and how they can, or encouraging them to play a role in developing the VPA. In addition, the letter also states, in the case of our marine communities, that persons attending for that community needed to be selected by the village council, because you have to respect the rules of that marine village as well. And in addition, that person that's selected must also be able to go back and share the information with the other community members about what they've learned. So this actually helps to expand the stakeholder reach of the FLEC VPA. It helps to broaden awareness, so to speak. Packages are sent at least 2 weeks prior to every engagement. And in addition, we prepare packages for communities after the engagement so that they can take it back to their other community members, so that they can have an understanding and an appreciation to what we've discussed over the couple days where the consultation might have happened. So this is basically a table showing the national consultations that were done. When I mean national consultation, I mean during the last round of consultation that we had. And as you can see, we've covered region 1 all the way to region 10, and we've done these consultations using a cluster-based approach. So basically, we targeted around 269 stakeholder groups, and this was about 790 persons consulted across Guyana, with representation from over 90% of our marine communities. This is approximately 123 marine communities. So as you can see, our consultation efforts were quite extensive. Apart from this, we're doing a next round of consultation starting June 2013, which will also follow along the same lines of consultation, targeting the same person that we've targeted, and even much more other stakeholder groups on what FLECT is. This is done to basically broaden their awareness and understanding of the FLECT VPA and how they can benefit from the agreement. So as you can see, some consultations in Region 1. We did some in Mabroma, Maruka, and Port Kaituma here. Also, we did some consultation in Region 7, Jowal and Imbaimedai. And of course, Letem, Region 9, Anai, and we have Essequibo, which was in Region 2. So these are just a few pictures. So, as I said, stakeholder feedback is important. But how do we ensure that stakeholder feedback are always incorporated, or they always are recorded, so to speak? Well, every single comment or feedback, whether it be general on the negotiation process or specific on a specific document, such as the legality definition, we've recorded that feedback within a database. Now, this database is a feedback matrix or a feedback table, where we recorded feedback based on stakeholder type, date, and whether it be specific or general. In addition, this helped to ensure transparency throughout the VPA process when it comes to consultation, as well as accountability. The information is also placed on the GFC website so that stakeholders can see how their inputs are being catered for, how it's being incorporated within the development of various documents of the VPA, and how they're playing a major part. So this helps to foster inclusion when it comes to stakeholder on the VPA process. In addition, we might not be able to incorporate all the comments for some reason within the VPA process, whether it be because of some law or because of some regulation that may not tie in directly with their suggestions or recommendation. But we do not disregard that comment altogether. However, what we try to do is that we try to give a justification based on why we might not be able to incorporate that feedback into the development of the VPA. This helped, as I said, to improve transparency and accountability. And this is basically a snapshot of the comments matrix or feedback matrix, so to speak. And we've had, in earlier sessions, we've had stakeholder engagement back in 2012, which we did a national proprietary workshop to get people involved and aware on what FLECT is. We've also done extensive workshop with Amerindian communities and so forth. Most recently, however, we did a session on the sharing of experiences on FLECT. The APA organized a legality seminar as well. We had NTWG consultation on the legality definition, and we've also had FLECT workshops on Annex 6 and Annex 10. Just some pictures of a proprietary workshop in Georgetown back in 2012. Here, some pictures of the small workshop we had on Annex 6 and Annex 10. We've also received numerous support from both EFI and FAO, where EFI provided some technical support on the review of the legality assurance system. FAO provided support on stakeholder engagement, as well as development of both of the projects I mentioned earlier, communication strategy, as well as the scoping of impacts assessment. FAO also provided a technical support in helping to formulate the process to complete the communication and consultation strategy. DFID has also played a major role in providing financial support, as well as technical support to the development of the VPA process. They provided financial support for stakeholder engagement, as well as having a FLECT facilitation office set up in Guyana, which provides technical support as well. Here, a FLECT facilitator is currently housed, and that individual provides the technical support in terms of reviewing documentation and helping to develop the legality assurance of Guyana, or the legality assurance system of Guyana. So to sum it all up, the parameters of the Guyana VPA. Currently, we're saying that FLECT licenses will only cover the export to the EU for the agreed products. When I say agreed products, I mean the products that are covered by Annex 1, which is the product scope. Other products can be added later, but currently we're focusing on the 6 major products in which we can definitively define legality. It helps to also build on existing systems. So we're saying the VPA will not seek to reinvent the wheel, but to help to build on the existing legality assurance system that Guyana currently has in place. IFM, for example, has been in Guyana for a number of years, and it's a system that was devised under the RED Plus initiative to efficiently track where weaknesses may lie in the system. So there are things in place from since before FLECT was, or since before we started negotiation with FLECT, to ensure that our systems are advanced and they're working properly. The legality assurance system will also be used, or the legality assurance system under the VPA will be used for both domestic and export. So we're saying that not just export will be able to define legality for, but domestic produce as well. So it will cover everything. Next steps, as I said, we're going to be having a fourth negotiation in November of 2015, and we're also going to be having an upgraded version or an updated version of the legality definition, which will be the fourth version shortly. We'll also have the completion of the communication and consultation strategy, which is still in its draft form. We'll also have the development of the TLAS, which is the Timber Legality Assurance System, and the remaining annexes. As I said, we have stakeholder engagement scheduled for 2015, starting June.